MBK 1:14 Burning the Khandava Forest. Chapter 14 Burning the Khandava Forest. The Yadus bestowed vast amounts of wealth on Arjuna, and he left Dwarka accompanied by a long train of chariots and elephants as well as hundreds of thousands of cows decorated with silk and gold. Subhadra rode with him on a fine golden chariot drawn by tall white steeds. They soon arrived at Indraprastha and Arjuna went straight to Yudhishthira. He clasped his feet and then worshipped him according to the Vedic injunctions. Arjuna then worshipped Domya and the other rishis in the royal court. When the ceremonies were complete, his other brothers embraced him with tears in their eyes and asked him to relate to them all his adventures. After spending time with his brothers, Arjuna went to see Draupadi. As he entered her chamber, she turned away from him and said, "O Arjuna, what brings you here at this time? You should go and be with your new bride. That daughter of the Satvata race must be missing you now." Draupadi was annoyed. Arjuna was her favorite among the Pandavas and she feared he might come to prefer Subhadra. The Pandava repeatedly begged her forgiveness and assured her that his love for her was in no way diminished. Draupadi continued to sulk. A second tie always relaxes the first one, no matter how strong it may have been. Arjuna tried to console the beautiful Draupadi, but she remained silent, always looking away from him. Seeing that he could not win her over, he left her chamber and went to Subhadra. He asked her to dress herself as a cowherd girl. He wanted to remind Draupadi that Subhadra was the sister of Krishna. Draupadi's beloved Lord Krishna had begun his life as a cowherd boy in a small village. By having Subhadra appear as a cowherd girl, Arjuna hoped that Draupadi's natural affection for Krishna would be awakened and directed toward his sister. The Yadu princess was brought into Draupadi's chamber attired in simple red silk. The servant girls who showed her and said, "This maiden has asked if she could become your servant." Subhadra immediately bowed before Draupadi and said, "I am here to do your bidding." Draupadi had never seen Subhadra and did not realize who she was, but seeing her humble demeanor and being reminded of her lord by Subhadra's rustic dress, Draupadi's heart melted. She raised her hands and blessed her, saying, "May you become the wife of a hero and the mother of a hero. May you be without a rival." Subhadra replied, "May it be so." She then introduced herself. "I am Subhadra, Krishna's sister." Draupadi smiled and embraced her co-wife. Her jealousy and anger were dissipated by Subhadra's gentleness. She asked Subhadra to tell her everything about Dwarka and Krishna. They spoke together for hours. Then Draupadi took Subhadra by the hand and led her to meet Kunti. The two Pandava queens soon became close friends and would spend much time together, discussing the activities of Krishna and his associates. A few days after Arjuna's return, Krishna and Balarama came to Indraprastha. Accompanied by his sons and ministers and riding at the head of a great army, Krishna entered the Pandavas' city where he was greeted at the gates by Nakula and Sahadev. As they proceeded in state down the main highway, thousands of citizens stood along the roadside. They cheered and worshipped Krishna and his elder brother as they moved slowly toward Yudhishthira's palace. The Yadus gazed around them at the city. The roads were immaculately swept and sprinkled with perfumed water. Fences draped with bright garlands ran down the sides of the wide avenues. On the tops of tall white mansions flew countless flags and standards. The sweet scent of burning aloes filled the air and the sound of musical instruments could be heard. Krishna and Balarama entered the Pandavas' palace and went before Yudhishthira and his brothers. Yudhishthira worshipped Balarama with all due ceremony and embraced Krishna with affection. Krishna offered his respects and worship to Yudhishthira, and Bhima then took his seat in the assembly hall. Many important personalities from Dwarka also took their places in the hall, including Akrura, Uddhava, Satyaki, Kritavarma, Sorana and Krishna's sons Pradyumna, Samba and Uniruddha. Krishna then gave Arjuna all the bridal gifts for Subhadra that her relatives in Dwarka had sent. He gave heaps of gold bricks and precious gems to Yudhishthira. Krishna also presented the king with 1,000 chariots adorned with rows of golden bells, each of them yoked to 4 steeds driven by well-trained charioteers, 10,000 milk-bearing cows, 1,000 moon-like white horses with golden harnesses, and 1,000 white mules with black manes, which could run at the speed of the wind. As well as this, Balarama gave Arjuna as a wedding gift 1,000 elephants, each resembling a hill and decked with golden ornaments and bells. Innumerable other items were offered to the Pandavas, being brought before them by Krishna's servants. Placed outside the hall, The wealth given by the Yadavas looked like a sea stretching in all directions. Yudhishthira graciously accepted the gifts and then arranged for all the Yadavas to be accommodated in his palace. They and the Pandavas passed many days together in happiness, and when it came time for them to leave, the Pandavas in turn presented them with brilliant gems as gifts. With Balarama at their head, the Yadus headed back to Dwaraka, but Krishna decided to remain behind to spend some time alone with Arjuna. One day Arjuna suggested, "O Krishna, the days are hot. Let us go for some time to the banks of the Yamuna. We have constructed many fine pleasure houses there." Krishna agreed to his proposal and they set off. They soon arrived at a charming spot amid groves of tall trees. High white mansions stood along the river banks, looking like a city of the gods. Krishna and Arjuna entered one of the houses where they were served varieties of exquisitely flavored food and drinks. They lay down upon golden couches spread with silk covers. After relaxing for some time they decided to go for a walk in the woods. The two heroes wandered along the river bank, discussing martial arts and past battles they had each fought. Having walked for a distance, they sat down upon an ivory bench that had been placed near the edge of a dense forest. As they continued to talk, a Brahmin suddenly emerged from the woods. They looked at him in surprise. He resembled an old salt tree with a complexion like molten gold. His beard and hair were bright yellow and he shone like the morning sun. His two eyes were like lotus leaves, and his body was well formed and powerful. As the Brahmin approached them, blazing like fire, Krishna and Arjuna stood up and awaited his order. In a resonant voice the Brahmin said, "I know you two to be the foremost of all men. I myself am a voracious Brahmin who eats much. I have therefore approached you in order to beg my food and to be gratified by you." Both Krishna and Arjuna folded their palms and asked the Brahmin what food he would like. The Brahmin replied, "I do not eat ordinary food. Know me to be Agni, the fire god. Give me food that suits me. Please help me to devour this Khandava forest." He indicated the jungle by which they were standing. Although he had already made many attempts to consume the forest, his efforts had been repeatedly thwarted by Indra. This was because Indra's friend, the Nagatakshaku, lived in the forest. Whenever Agni blazed up and began to cover the forest, Indra would send torrents of rain to stop him. The fire god continued, "Both of you are experts in arms. By your prowess you will be able to prevent Indra from stopping me. Thus I shall consume this great forest. O heroes, this is the food I desire to have from you." Krishna and Arjuna looked at each other in surprise. They assured Agni that they would do everything in their power to help him, but they were curious as to why he wanted to consume this particular forest. The deity explained that the Khandava forest contained numerous varieties of medicinal herbs. He needed the herbs because he was suffering a malady due to having eaten excessive amounts of ghee. There had been a great sacrifice performed by a king named Swetaki in which so much ghee was offered into the fire that Agni became ill. Brahma then told him that he could be cured if he ate the herbs in the Khandava forest. When Agni failed in his attempts to consume the forest, Brahma told him that he would succeed if he could gain the assistance of Krishna and Arjuna. Brahma had said, in a previous incarnation, these two men were in fact the ancient and infallible deities Nara and Narayana. They have appeared on the earth to accomplish the celestials' purpose. Therefore, ask for their help. Agni concluded, "I now depend upon you too. I must eat this forest." Brahma has also informed me that the living beings within the forest are sinful and should be destroyed. Therefore do not harbor any doubts. This act is sanctioned by authority. Arjuna replied, "I possess many celestial weapons, but I have no bow capable of bearing their power. If I am to achieve the task you have set, I will require an inexhaustible quiver of arrows and a chariot drawn by celestial steeds. If you can provide all this, then we will surely accomplish your desire." Agni meditated upon Varuna, god of the nether worlds, and the deity immediately appeared and said, "What shall I do for you?" Agni knew that Varuna kept many celestial weapons in the depths of the ocean. Therefore he asked him to present Arjuna with the celestial bow Gandiva as well as 2 inexhaustible quivers of arrows. Agni also asked that Varuna bring forth the chariot belonging to Sama. The moon god Varuna agreed and caused all those things to appear at that spot. Arjuna looked with wonder at the Gandiva bow. It appeared like a rainbow embedded with celestial gems. As tall as a man, it was flawless. The Pandava took up the shining bow and forcefully twanged its string. A sound like the crash of thunder resounded throughout the forest, terrifying all the creatures. Holding the bow, the joyful Arjuna next approached the huge, golden chariot. It was filled with varieties of celestial weapons as well as the two inexhaustible quivers Agni had requested. The chariot was yoked with golden harnesses to silvery steeds from the land of the Gandharvas. These horses were capable of going anywhere within all the worlds and could move with the speed of the wind or the mind. Above the chariot flew a banner bearing an image of Hanuman. Rama's great monkey servant Hanuman seemed to be burning everything that fell within his gaze. Other flags flew on the chariot bearing images of fierce beasts. All the creatures roared terribly from their standards. Arjuna circumambulated the chariot and then mounted it like a virtuous man ascending to heaven. He put on the suit of celestial armor that lay there. As he stood with the Gandiva in his hand, he resembled the sun shining from behind an evening cloud. He then drove the chariot around, smiling as he heard the loud rumble of its wheels. Varuna also gave Krishna a club called Kaumodaki, which roared loudly when wheeled about and which could crush even Daitayas and Danuvas. Krishna then mounted Arjuna's chariot, saying that he would become the driver. Arjuna again addressed Agni, "O fire god, we are now ready to satisfy your request. Armed with the Gandiva and assisted by Krishna, I am able to withstand the entire host of gods united with the Asuras. What then to speak of Indra? Therefore, blaze up as much as you like and surround this forest." Agni immediately expanded himself around the forest and began to consume it with his 7 kinds of flames. He assumed the fearful appearance he assumes at the end of an eon which he uses to destroy all things. Krishna then began to drive the chariot around the forest. It moved with such speed that it appeared to be continuously present on every side of the forest. Whenever Arjuna saw a creature trying to escape from the conflagration, he immediately shot it down. Being slain in the presence of Krishna, the supreme deity, all the creatures dying in that forest assumed spiritual forms and ascended to the highest regions of transcendence. The roar of the fire could be heard for miles. Red, orange and blue flames shot high into the sky. The lakes and ponds in the forest were boiled dry and the rocks melted. No creature was able to escape from the blazing Khandava forest, and their screams mixed with the crackling of the fire. It blazed up to such an extent that it caused fear even to the celestials, who went in a body to Indra and said anxiously, "O Lord of the immortals, why does Agni burn all creatures below? Has the time come for the world's destruction?" Indra looked himself to see what was happening on the earth. Feeling concern for his friend Takshaku, he set out at once to stop the fire. He sent down torrents of rain, which fell in columns as thick as tree trunks. But the rain was turned to steam by the heat of the fire even before it reached the forest below. Indra then became angry and amassed huge clouds over the forest which doubled the volume of rain. With its flames and smoke rising up, and with lightning and sheets of water falling from the sky, the forest became terrifying. Arjuna saw Indra's attempt to put out the fire and he sent hundreds of thousands of arrows in a tight network over the forest. That net of arrows acted as a vast umbrella and completely checked the falling rain. The Naga king Takshaku was not present in the Khandava, but both his wife and son were caught in the blaze. They flew swiftly upwards and were seen by Arjuna. He instantly fired an arrow which severed the snake lady's head. He then trained another arrow upon Takshaku's son, Ashvasena. Seeing this, Indra raised a violent wind around Arjuna which temporarily deprived him of his senses. Ashvasena escaped and disappeared into the sky. As he regained his senses, Arjuna became angry with Indra. He shouted a challenge to the god and covered the sky with his arrows. Indra too became angry with Arjuna and released his tremendous thunderbolt weapon. Without delay Arjuna invoked the Vayavaya weapon which dispersed the huge black clouds. That powerful wind weapon completely dispelled the energy of Indra's thunderbolts and lightning flashes. The sky became clear and a gentle breeze began to blow. Agni blazed up even more, fanned by the breeze and fed with the fat of bodies burning in the forest. He filled the sky with his roars. Indra summoned many other celestials to fight with Arjuna. Hosts of powerful heavenly fighters appeared and began to send their weapons at both him and Krishna. Blazing iron balls, bullets, rocks and countless arrows shot toward them. Arjuna countered all the missiles with his arrows. At the same time he cut down his assailants, who fell screaming into the fire. Arjuna was unconquerable as he stood on the battlefield releasing his deadly arrows. With Krishna skillfully guiding the chariot, Indra then mounted his celestial elephant, Uharavata, and rushed down upon Arjuna and Krishna, shouting, "These two are killed." He raised his personal weapon known as the Vajra and urged on his elephant. Seeing Indra advance, the other principal gods followed him. Yamaraja took up his death-dealing club, Kuvera his mace, and Varuna his noose. The commander of the celestial army, Skanda, raised his Shakti weapon, and Surya came with his brilliant dart. The other gods charged behind Indra with their own weapons raised. The Vishvadevas, Sadhyas, Rudras, Vasus and Marudas all advanced in a body toward Arjuna and Krishna, who stood fearlessly below. Even though they exerted themselves with full force, however, the celestials were unable to overpower Krishna and Arjuna. Struck by Arjuna's mystical arrows, the gods were forced to retreat. Indra smiled. He was pleased with Arjuna, who was, after all, his son, and he also understood Krishna's position. Indra knew that no one could overcome Krishna or anyone supported by him. Obviously, Krishna desired that Agni consume the forest, and, at the same time, he was enhancing the fame and glory of his friend Arjuna. Then, desiring to test Arjuna's power further, Indra sent down a thick shower of boulders. Arjuna quickly reduced the stones to dust with his swift arrows. Indra then tore off the peak of a massive mountain and hurled it at Arjuna. Not disturbed in the least, Arjuna cut the flying mountain peak into 1,000 pieces, which rained down upon the forest below. Indra was gladdened by Arjuna's prowess. He ordered the celestials to withdraw, and, as he did so, an invisible voice was heard in the sky. "O Indra, your friend Takshaku is not in the forest at present. Nor will it be possible for you to defeat in battle Arjuna and Krishna. These two are Narayan and Narayana, the immortal and invincible rishis. They are worthy of even the gods' worship. Desist from the battle, for the burning of the Khandava has been ordained by fate." Having heard that voice, which they knew belonged to the universal creator Brahma, the gods retired to their own abodes. For 15 days Agni continued to consume the forest along with its inhabitants. As the forest was destroyed, hordes of Rakshasas, Danuvas and Nagas rushed out in fear. Arjuna cut them down with volleys of arrows. None could even look at him as he stood releasing his searing shafts. Gradually the forest was reduced to ashes and Agni was gratified. There was a leader of the Asura race named Maya, who had been dwelling in the Khandava. Having hid himself underground, he now rushed out of the forest and tried to escape. Agni chased the Asura and Krishna raised his discus weapon, Sudarshana, ready to kill him. The intelligent Maya ran to Arjuna and fell at his feet. "O Arjuna, I seek your protection. Save me. I supplicate myself before you." Arjuna raised his hand and replied, "Do not fear." He could not refuse to protect anyone who sought his shelter. He turned toward Krishna and asked him to spare the Asura's life. Krishna lowered his weapon and Agni also stood back. As the flames in the forest died down, Indra again appeared before Arjuna and Krishna. Agni stood next to him as he said, "O Partha, O Keshava, you have achieved that which could not be achieved by any celestial. Please ask from me any boon you desire." "I am very much pleased." Arjuna asked Indra for all his celestial weapons. Indra smiled and replied that he would indeed give him the weapons, but not yet. When Shiva would give Arjuna his Pashupata weapon, then Indra would bring him to heaven and give him all the fire and wind weapons. That time would come in the future. Krishna then asked that his friendship with Arjuna might last forever, and Indra said, "It shall be so." Finally, Agni said, "I also wish to give you a boon. Just as I pervade this universe, so by my power will you be able to go anywhere you desire within the universe." The gods then returned to the heavens. As Krishna and Arjuna made their way back to their mansion, Maya approached them. He bowed at Arjuna's feet and said, "O son of Kunti, you have saved me from the angry Krishna and the hungry Agni. Tell me what I can do for you in return." Arjuna replied, "I cannot take anything from you to repay me. This is my firm principle. I act only out of duty. It was my duty to save you and therefore you bear me no obligation. Go in peace." Maya praised Arjuna's virtue, but he insisted upon doing something for the Pandavas. "I simply wish to please you, O Partha. You need not see it as repayment." Arjuna again said that he could not accept anything from Maya. "I do not want to frustrate your desire. If you want to please me, then do something for Krishna. That will be more pleasing to me than anything else." Maya turned and looked expectantly at Krishna, who was smiling softly. After reflecting for a moment he said, "You are the architect of the celestial demons. If you wish to please me, then build a splendid assembly hall for Yudhishthira. The like of this hall should not be found anywhere in the world. It should contain the features of celestial architecture and be impossible for anyone else to emulate. The Asura's skills were well known to Krishna. Maya had constructed many wondrous edifices in the higher planets for the Daityas and Danuvas. Maya then assented to Krishna's request and accompanied him and Arjuna back to Indraprastha, where he was introduced to Yudhishthira. The eldest Pandava marveled as Arjuna narrated the story of how the Khandava forest was burnt. He received Maya with honor and discussed the hall with him. After much thought, Maya drew up a design. He then began to consider where to find the necessary materials for constructing the celestial hall. He told the Pandavas that he needed to go to the Himalayas. I have left there a large quantity of rough diamonds and other precious stones of every description, including those not found on this earth. I shall go to fetch them. Maya explained that he had formerly been engaged by Vrishaparva, king of the Danuvas, to construct sacrificial altars for the Asuras. He had gathered all kinds of celestial materials which he had stored at Vrishaparva's house high up on the Mahinaka mountain. There was also a great club with which Vrishaparva had once withstood the gods in battle. Maya would bring that club, equal to 100,000 ordinary clubs, and give it to Bhima. He would also fetch from the depths of a lake on Mahinaka the large celestial conch shell known as Devadatta for Arjuna. If Arjuna blew that conch on the battlefield, it would shatter his opponent's hearts. Having gained Yudhishthira's permission, the Asura left quickly for the north. He found all his wealth guarded by Yakshas and Rakshasas, and with their assistance he brought it back to Indraprastha. After presenting the club to Bhima and the conch shell to Arjuna, he commenced work.